Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Strongest Thor in Marvel. Chapter 81. Say hello to Thanos for me. Loki. Frigg was so excited that he hugged Loki. Mother, don't worry, I won't let anyone hurt you. Loki's words were not false. Although he has been dissatisfied with Odin for a long time, Frigga has always been very kind to him. Even though he has some resentment towards Odin, he has never complained about Frigga. In fact, so does Hela. It can only be said that Odin's education has indeed failed. Afterwards, he said in a deep voice, the giants of Jotunheim dared to invade Asgard in an attempt to assassinate their father and king. Don't worry, Queen Mother, I will make them pay the price. They really should pay the price. However, I think it's more appropriate to discuss your arrangement first. A high-pitched voice interrupted this warm scene. Frigg raised her head suddenly. Thor? You're back. Yes, I'm back. If I don't come back, Asgard will be messed up. Thor turned to Loki and said seriously, why didn't you tell Mother that you sent the destroyer to attack me and my friends? What? Frigga was shocked. She knew that Loki had always been jealous of Thor, but she didn't expect to do something like a brother. No, it's just a test to carry out your father's instructions. Loki didn't change his face. Now I'm going to carry out the operation to destroy Jotunheim, so I don't have time to argue with you. He lifted Gungnir, a ray hit, Thor dodged it, Loki was gone. Thor, my boy, tell me the truth, what happened? To put it simply, Loki wanted to do something big to get your approval, and he put Lauf in. Well, in Midgardian terms, it's called fishing law enforcement. This passage had a great impact on Frigga, and it made her react for a while, and she didn't even notice that Thor was chasing Loki. The sleeping Odin slowly opened his eyes. Ahead of Bifrost, Loki lifts Gungnir and inserts the switch. Waves of energy surged, turning into terrifying colorful brilliance and shooting into the void. Loki turned his head and looked proud. It's useless, you can't stop me, the power of Bifrost will continue to be released until Jotunheim is destroyed. Immediately, he seemed to think of something, and continued, unless you destroy Bifrost, but in this way, you will never see those people who stayed in Midgard again. Thornton had a strange look on his face. Who told you that I was going to stop it? Have you forgotten that if my father hadn't stopped me 10 years ago, I would have destroyed Jotunheim? Loki was stunned suddenly, and then reacted, and said angrily, definitely different. Now, I am the one who completes this great deed. I will prove to my father that I am the best. Then you prove it slowly. Now let's have a good discussion on the issue of you sending the destroyer to trouble me and introducing the frost giant. Thor loosened his fist, and Loki suddenly thought of the beatings he had suffered all these years. He raised Gungnir and said angrily, then let's settle our grievances today. While speaking, his figure changed, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into dozens of Lokis and killed them at the same time. This posture is quite impressive. A bit of Doctor Strange style. Unfortunately, as a magician and assassin, Loki is not Thor's opponent at all. A lightning storm of wide area spells, shattering all of his fakes, and with a single punch, Thor sealed the victory, sending Loki flying over the edge of the bridge and sliding down. Thor grabbed the other end of Gungnir, and said with a narrow smile, how about it, are you convinced? Admit your mistake, and I will pull you up. Loki was still wondering if he should admit it first, but he's used to it anyway. As a result, Thor's words that added fuel to the fire instantly detonated his anger, and all the new and old hatreds rushed into his heart. He roared, I am not wrong. I am here to destroy Jotunheim. For the father, for us. No, Loki, you are for yourself. Odin's voice came. This sentence seemed to be the last straw that broke the camel's back. Loki suddenly looked downcast. He let go of his hand and fell into the bottomless abyss. At the last moment, he heard Thor's voice. Say hello to Thanos for me. Chapter 82 Man of Steel. Hey! Odin let out a long sigh. On the one hand, although Loki is not biological, it is impossible to get along with each other for so many years without feelings. On the other hand, this also means that his peaceful policy is officially shattered. Even if Jotunheim provokes first, destroying a planet is enough to make some forces in the Nine Realms ready to move. Thor didn't think so. Historically, it was precisely because of the destruction of Bifrost that Asgard was unable to intervene in the Nine Realms, which led to rebellions everywhere. Now that Bifrost is still there, with the precedent of Jotunheim, it will only make those forces more peaceful. Don't worry, there will be no mess. Besides, Loki will be back too. Odin didn't speak, he left silently. Hey, congratulations to the host for triggering Odin's exclusive mission, War and Peace. Blindly avoiding war cannot bring about real peace. In many cases, it is necessary to maintain peace by showing strength. Mission objective: get Odin to recognize your philosophy. Mission reward: passive skill, Man of Steel. Man of Steel, the stunt of a superhero wearing underwear outside the other world, which allows you to have super endurance and defense, and is not afraid of kryptonite. No matter how many injuries you receive, you can quickly recover under the sundae. Man of Steel. Thor stared, one of Superman's signature abilities, and it's the most suitable ability for him. After all, I have no shortage of attacks. The exclusive king weapon, Stormbreaker, is almost indestructible, which makes me have one of the strongest attacks in superhero. But the defense was not satisfactory. Although the energy against the neutron star has surpassed most people, he was still punched by Thanos. It's a pity that the task rewards are very rich and the difficulty is also very high. Odin has persisted in this concept for thousands of years, and he doesn't even want his own daughter. At this time, Thor also understood a little bit. In most cases, the stronger the target is, the more difficult it is to trigger the task and the richer the reward. This is the case for Odin, and the same is true for Ancient One. The only exceptions are Captain Marvel's flight ability and Sif's infinite gems experience coupons. As Thor said, all parts of the Nine Realms are calm, and some noisy places have quieted down. Thor didn't stay in Asgard for long, and returned to Earth the next day, taking Sif with him. When he came back this time, he used the portal. He tested it and was satisfied with the result. If the number of people teleport is not large, it is much more convenient than Bifrost. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D of at the moment, a heated argument is going on. Damn it, those bloody savages stabbed such a big egg basket, slapped their butts and left, and now leave the mess to us. A middle-aged congressman slapped the table and roared, everyone in New York has seen the city, the vision outside, felt the shock, and now Washington is asking us for an explanation. How do we explain it? Tell them this is the Manhattan Project 2.0? Hell, this is New York. Natalia frowned, and retorted on the spot, if it weren't for the barbarians you said to block, that armor would make New York enter a nuclear winter. Romanoff agent, pay attention to your identity. Another high-ranking boss said angrily, I know you have private contacts with him, but now you are standing in the position of S.H.I.E.L.D, instead of defending him everywhere. Natalia didn't bother to talk to him anymore, and thought to herself, the protection of bullshit, if you want to maintain it, you are also maintaining SHIELD. Let you gang of insiders and outsiders fight with sand dollars to offend people, and the whole of America will be smashed for you. At this time, Nick Fury, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up, why do you have to explain? Why can't you tell the truth? Alien civilizations have always existed, and they will contact us sooner or later. No, they are already in contact. It's time for the people to know about this. Chapter 83 Cut off your head. No. This will cause panic among the people. It's already causing panic. Nick Fury said in a deep voice, at the very least, as Captain Black, who once won the Medal of Courage, most people will accept him more. That's it. Asgard will not be the only alien who came to Earth. In the future, there will definitely be more people from other planets visiting or even invading. This matter will not be hidden sooner or later. Nick Fury made a final decision on the plan. Who are the candidates for the Avengers? Leaving the conference hall, Nick Fury asked Phil Coulson in the director's office. Earth urgently needs to form its own power to deal with threats from beyond the sky. Tony Stark is one, his steel battlesuit makes him qualified to be a superhero. Natasha Romanoff is also, she is the best agent I have ever seen. Clint Barton, he is the strongest sniper in the world. Bruce Banner, if he can control his emotions, he can be the strongest. After a pause, he continued, actually, Captain Black, that is, Thor is the best candidate, and there are many other candidates in his manner, provided he is willing to join. Marinade interrupted him and said, he will agree, because the Avengers is a completely independent organization and does not need to be affiliated with any organization. And judging from what he has done, he has no malice towards us. But now the organization needs a spiritual leader to make it easier for the people to accept it. Thor is an alien, Stark has a bad reputation in the past, Clint is not strong enough, Natasha Romanoff was born in Russia, and Hulk is even more ridiculous. Phil Coulson looked weird. According to the director, there are no suitable candidates. Suddenly he looked serious and asked tentatively, you mean Captain America? According to the doctor, he will wake up in the next few days. I hope his dream will merge into this new era. Her physical condition is very stable, and the injuries on her body are all superficial, so there's nothing serious about it. It's just a loss of strength caused by excessive fatigue. She should wake up soon, just pay attention to rest. In the room in the manor, Jane Foster was still lying on the bed, and a blonde female doctor said to Thor. Okay, thank you, Dr. Palmer. This is your certification fee. I hope you keep everything you saw tonight, otherwise someone may disturb your life. Thor handed her a check. The female doctor nodded. She saw a circle of light appear out of nowhere in the room with her own eyes, and then a man and a woman walked out of it. She thought it was better for her to forget about it. Watching the doctor leave, Natalia said, the director announced today that the truth about the destroyer armor incident will be disclosed, and you will soon become famous. I'm already famous. Nick Fury is a smart man. If I make it public as soon as possible, the public will be mentally prepared for what happens in the future. Agent Phil Coulson asked me to ask you, Avengers, if you would like to join. I have no objection. But one thing must be said, the Avengers must always remain independent and have the full power to act freely. I have no interest in participating in the games of those politicians. Besides, there are a lot of problems with those politicians. With that said, he walked out of the room and looked at a shivering man in black in the corner. Romanoff agent, this is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. This guy was already terrified. They wanted to try to monitor the situation on Thor's side, but they were discovered by Minerva as soon as they approached the manor, and then they were knocked down by Nebula in a few seconds, leaving only one alive for questioning use. Did Sidwell send you here? Or Crossbones? Either way. The agent looked blank, as if he didn't know who he was talking about. Thor suddenly said softly, don't worry, if one head grows, I'll cut off 2 heads, and see how many heads you have for me. The man in black immediately stopped begging for mercy, looked over in horror, and then said frantically, you ignorant guy, the organization is so powerful, you can't even imagine it. Hydra Hail. Chapter 84 Captain Awakes. Looking at the agent who died after crushing the poisonous non, Natalia froze for a moment before realizing it. Hydra? Hasn't this organization been wiped out? She looked at Thor. Thor said indifferently, what was wiped out at the beginning was at best the Red Skull series, and it was not thorough. Dr. Zola was Hydra before, and it couldn't be easier to put people in it. The current S.H.I.E.L.D. has long been infiltrated and riddled with wounds. Hole. Natalia froze for a moment, and couldn't help asking, is Nick Fury Hydra? No. Then can you tell him the news? Then what? Expose all this? Let's not say whether he believes it or not, this will only make the hidden dangers of Hydra explode in advance. The degree of penetration of Hydra is far beyond your imagination. Even the previous S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Alexander Pierce's Hydra. Natalia broke out in a cold sweat immediately. Even the highest bureau chief is Hydra. Shouldn't it be too easy to install personnel? Rather than finding Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D., it is better to find S.H.I.E.L.D. in Hydra. She shuddered at the thought that most of her colleagues around her were enemies. So, when will this problem be resolved? When they show their flaws and start to act. Moreover, there must be someone who is absolutely impossible to betray in the hearts of the people to prove it. Don't worry, their strength is just like that, and they can be beaten to death if they show their heads. Okay, I understand. Then can you tell me, who else can I trust? I don't want to be beaten with a sap one day without any vigilance. Natalia was a little joking when she said this. Peggy can do it, so can her niece Sharon Carter, Hawkeye Barton, Maria Hill, Phil Coulson. Nick Fury can do it. Not a nice guy, but at least he's not Hydra either. Okay. Natalia pondered, and the atmosphere fell into silence. There is one more thing. The director revealed that Captain America is about to wake up. You are also old friends. Don't you plan to meet? In the old room, the radio was broadcasting a baseball game commentary. Steve slowly opened his eyes. Me, still not dead? A nurse opened the door and walked in, smiling. Captain, are you awake? Steve wondered, where am I? In a ward in New York. Steve listened carefully. It was his favorite Dodgers game. With Thor around, the broadcast picks a game after Steve's accident, definitely not letting him hear the problem right away. Steve couldn't help but nodded, and asked, what happened to the plane? It didn't hurt our people, did it? No, you saved countless people. Thor opened the door and walked in, followed by Peggy Carter. As expected of the captain, even after waking up from a 70-year coma, he still did not forget his mission. Blake, Agent Carter. Are you here? Steve suddenly became excited. Is the Red Skull matter resolved? How is the war going? Also, how long have I been in a coma? There are a lot of questions. Thor smiled bitterly. Let's answer them one by one. Red Skull's plan was terminated by you. You forced the plane to land in no man's land, so no one was injured. The war is over. As for the others, some things, you need to digest and digest. Chapter 85 Life Winner Stark. So, I've been in a coma for more than half a century. The captain was silent, because the amount of information was too much for him to accept. Immediately, he raised his head and asked, have you found Bucky's body? The expressions of Thor and Peggy are a little weird. After being in a coma for so long, the first thing that comes to mind is the situation of gay friends. Can the friendship between men really reach this level? Peggy looked at Thor with a questioning look in her eyes, and although Thor told her that Captain America and Bucky were not dead, she didn't know whether to tell Steve. Thor gave her a reassuring look, turned to Steve and said, after the war, Howard searched the valley below the cliff, but couldn't find Bucky. Therefore, the last files of the three of us all recorded the disappearance. The three of us? Steve understood a little. He took Thor's cue. 3 people are missing, 2 of them are alive, so Bucky. Since then, I realized that there are many risks in this world that cannot be dealt with by conventional means, so I plan to form a team of superheroes to deal with those enemies that are beyond the scope. Nick Fury patiently explained to Steve the general history since the end of World War II. You mean, you want me to join? Yes, although it is a bit unreasonable to bother a veteran, but I have to say that the world still needs you. I understand, from the moment I sat on Dr. Abraham's bench, I was ready. Steve said seriously. Thor opened a package, revealing a shield. This is yours, I recolored him. Steve took it, gently stroking the lines on the shield, lost in memory. Okay, so Captain, is there anything uncomfortable with you? Nick Fury asked. Steve shook his head and said in a low voice, no, I'm just feeling a little emotional. Once awakening comes, I'm afraid there are not many acquaintances back then. This shield was given to me by Mr. Stark back then. After all these years, he's gone, right? Thor nodded and said, yes, he left a few years ago, and he is enjoying his old age. Although he is gone, his son is still there. I think you will like him. When you get familiar with this era in a few days, I'll take you to recognize your nephew. Peggy shot Thor a smile, and mourned for Tony Stark. The awakening of Captain America gave Nick Fury a great reassurance. Although he is not the strongest superhero, he is definitely the most reliable one. What is even more gratifying is Phil Coulson, who not only saw his idol in person, but also had the honor to take a photo with him and ask for an autograph. The only depressed person is Tony Stark. Originally, he was in a good mood these 2 days. He solved the great enemy of Whiplock Yvonne, and his long-standing competitor, Hanmer Industries, suffered a wave of losses to his grandma's house. The important steel soldier was implicated by Yvonne and directly pushed to the military court, and the huge Hammer industry became history. Justin Hammer is also unlucky. In order to compete with Stark Industries, he cooperates with Yvonne to manufacture iron soldiers. Thought it would overwhelm Tony Stark. Unexpectedly, Yvonne regarded the iron soldiers as a tool of revenge, and it was fine to launch an attack regardless of the safety of the masses at the press conference. At the critical moment, he was dazzled by hatred, and collectively controlled them to explode. And Tony Stark not only solved the problem of palladium poisoning, but also appeased the military by giving his good friend Rhodes the armor, and regained the trust of Washington. What pleased him the most was that he used S.H.I.E.L.D. to force the congressman who hated him to give him an award. Especially looking at this fat man who wants to bite him to death but has to boast about himself with a smile on his face, it doesn't feel too good to slap him in the face. That night, he accompanied Rhodes in the bar until late at night. Chapter 86 Pi Transactions in the Void. It's cool for a while, and it's always cool. Tony is having fun right now. Until Thor and Steve came to him. I, Tony Stark, Iron Man, announce that I will be responsible for the consumption of everyone present tonight. Tony Stark, who had had 2 drinks, announced loudly. During this period of time, all the suppressed emotions were released, and tonight he decided to let himself go completely. Then his smile froze as he saw the face he least wanted to see. Look, it's him, the son of the Howard family, just like his father when he was young. Thor pointed at the pretending Stark on the stage with a look of disgust. He took Steve to meet him. Hi, big nephew, long time no see. Come on, let me introduce you, this is your Uncle Steve, Captain America, one of your father's best friends back then, his invincible big shield. It is your father's masterpiece. He emphasizes the words your father, reminding Stark of his generation. Stark immediately had a constipated expression on his face, and War Machine Rhodes held back a smile and turned his head away. Especially, Steve, the Iron Man, didn't notice Stark's embarrassment at all, and greeted him enthusiastically. Are you Howard's son? That's great. When I first met him, he was still a single nobleman, and he kept saying that he didn't plan to get married and have children. I didn't expect you to be so old in the blink of an eye. Saying that, he even stroked Stark's dog's head like an elder. There are black lines all over Stark's forehead, don't you have a clue, you old man? Do you have the nerve to touch your seniority in front of me, a 30-year-old man with such a baby face? Stark has goosebumps. Stop, stop. Biologically, the body's metabolism is almost stagnant during the frozen time, so your biological age is actually younger than mine, so please don't carelessly climb up the generations. Then he glared at Thor, knowing my father doesn't count as such. This old antique is our ancestors thousands of years ago, isn't it a cheeky old cow eating young grass? Speaking of this, it hurts. Natasha Romanoff, who pretended to be an employee of the legal department a few days ago, made the self-proclaimed lover Stark touch his nose, and even made a big embarrassment in the boxing ring. Be sure to beat her. It was only later that I found out that this beautiful woman who can fight is actually a S.H.I.E.L.D agent, and she is also closely related to Trudheim Manor, the name given to the manor by the protagonist. Not only Natalia, there are a large number of ladies in Trudheim Manor who obviously can rely on their appearance to make a living, but have to rely on their own efforts. The female Thor Jane Foster, who showed her prowess a few days ago, according to legend the goddess of harvest, Sif, the #1 female warrior in God's domain, a great scientist like Maya Hansen is considered ordinary. In comparison, the cover models I met back then with only a pretty face seemed dull. Being interrupted by such a distraction, Stark's good mood lost more than half of it. Sure enough, every time I see this guy, nothing good happens. Bad old man, very bad. Unlike the calm Earth, at this time, a pie transaction is going on in the distant void. Loki muttered to himself, I'm coming back, my brother, you can't think of it. He looked in the direction of the distant Earth, and clenched the scepter in his hand. At the end of the scepter, a golden jewel glistened. Mind gems. Chapter 87, Loki sends equipment. Loki took the scepter and ran to plan. In Asgard, his plans failed, and now he has found collaborators who can use each other. Yes, in Loki's eyes, it's not Thanos using him, but he is using Thanos. When I got to the Earth and found Tesseract, with this scepter, I have the final say on everything. Unconsciously, Mind Gem subtly affected his inner thoughts, constantly expanding the dark side of his character. From the depths of the universe, a thick voice came. The Tesseract has awakened, and it's in a tiny world, the world of humans. Humans want to use its energy, but only our allies can use it. Humans are wishful thinking. He will be in the vanguard, and our army of Churitas will follow. Give him the Earth, and we want the whole universe. How can human beings resist? They can only wait for death. Thanos looked in the direction of Earth. In his plan, the space gem is second only to the power gem in importance. The former can speed up his various actions in the universe, and the latter makes him invincible. Thor subconsciously glanced at the sky, his eyelids twitched just now. He feels that something big seems to have happened in the universe, which is the intuition from the strong. Probably, as a Pathfinder pawn, the Chirita army led by Loki will arrive soon, and Thor has no intention of stopping it. What's the matter? Did something happen? Seeing Thor's dignified expression, Miss Jane asked doubtfully. After waking up from the coma, Miss Jane doesn't seem to have the highly compatible effect she had on Mjolnir that day. He also asked Ancient One to check it out. According to Ancient One, this is the subconscious protection of the body, because she is still unable to bear this force. After this incident, Miss Jane seemed to believe in destiny even more, and her relationship with Thor seemed to develop much faster. On the same day, at Thor's request, she agreed to stay in the manor after a short hesitation. Nothing, it's just that there will be a crisis on the Earth, and an invasion by an evil alien race. Oh, Jane blinked and asked, aren't you going to remind me? Thor waved his hand, forget it, now in the eyes of those shit-eating politicians in Washington, I am a big threat. If I mention it, maybe it will be regarded as having ulterior motives instead. Some people just remember to eat but not to remember. Let them fight. The source of this crisis is the same as 70 years ago. The people tried to control the power that did not belong to them, which caused the disaster. For Washington, Thor has no favor at all. What this group of people need is a group of obedient dogs. It is best to go out with a bomb collar, and destroy those who are not obedient immediately. In fact, the more he gets in touch with this group of people, the more Thor understands why Ancient One, as the Asgardian of the world, refuses to interfere in most things. After all, in her eyes, many troubles are caused by human beings themselves. Can't Sister Natalia tell? I believe in her, but I don't want her to be in trouble. After all, she is still affiliated with SHIELD. So, you have to get used to it during this period of time, and better grasp this power. When the time comes, you will be able to use it. After the battle with the destroyer, Thor tried to test Miss Jane's aptitude, and the result was not surprising. Even in Asgard, she was very good. If it was placed 1,000 years ago, there would be a high probability of being worshipped as a saint, or burned to death as a witch. Chapter 88, The Three Princesses with a Charming Smile. S.H.I.E.L.D. was not vigilant at all and continued researching weapons. Natalia felt that the atmosphere in the Trudheim Manor was different, but Thor didn't say anything, and she didn't ask. She didn't want Thor to be embarrassed, and she knew that Thor didn't want her to be embarrassed if he didn't tell her. Besides, now in S.H.I.E.L.D., she has been regarded as Thor's side by many people. In the middle of the night, a helicopter landed at the secret base of SHIELD. Nick Fury and Maria Hill got off the helicopter and glanced at the evacuating crowd. Nick Fury asked in a deep voice, "How bad is the situation?" Phil Coulson replied, "The worst part is not knowing. 4 hours ago, Dr. Eric detected an unusual burst of energy from the Tesseract. The doctor was not using it at the time, and the energy was completely self-triggered." Nick Fury frowned. "How about the energy intensity? It's still rising. After trying to get rid of it, we evacuated the personnel, and we can all evacuate in about half an hour." Maria Hill said at this time, "Director, simply evacuating personnel is useless. We need to find a way to figure out the source of this energy." "I know, but now is not the time to think about this. Evacuate personnel and important materials first. The Tesseract is not serious, it is very active now, and it is out of control." Dr. Eric said to Nick Fury with a helpless face, "We tried to unplug the power, but it was originally an energy source, and it will automatically turn on when the power is turned off. If you let it peak. Isn't that our purpose? To draw energy from the universe. It's different. We are not ready yet. There is a difference between actively accepting energy and passively accepting it." Nick Fury has a bad feeling. He asked Hawkeye Barton, who was in charge here, "What do you think? Have you noticed anything?" "Nothing, Dr. Eric didn't do anything. So, it's not our fault. Our side." Nick Fury's heart skipped a beat. "That's right. Since the Rubik's Cube is a door to the universe, it doesn't make sense that only our side can open it. The existence on the other side is probably also trying to open the door." Hawkeye expressed his guess. "Not yet," Dr. Eric added. "We're not ready to engage with them." At this moment, Tesseract suddenly burst out a strong blue light, shining on the opposite platform. Nick Fury's eyelids twitched. He realized what the bad premonition was, and quickly shouted, "Everyone stay away from the Tesseract. Combatants prepare to fire." On the platform, the blue flame gradually turned into a human form, and a demon-like figure wearing a two-horned helmet appeared. The flames dissipated slowly, and a delicate face slowly lifted up. Looking at Nick Fury and others who are facing the enemy, Loki smiled evilly. It was the smile of a devil. Chapter 89 Rubik and number 039, S-Cube lost. "Sir, would you please put down the spear first?" Although it was obvious at a glance that the other party was not kind, Nick Fury still tried to negotiate. Loki observed the surroundings for a few seconds, and suddenly swung his staff. A burst of energy hit the marinated egg. Bang bang bang! The agents, who had been prepared for a long time, fired at once, but they were far from Loki's opponents. Don't look at this kid being beaten by Thor all day long. After Thor beats up Sif, after Sif beats up, they both beat up together. But Loki has some frost giant blood, and his physical fitness is stronger than Steve's, so it's no problem to deal with a few ordinary people. In just a few rounds, almost all the surrounding agents knelt down. Oh? This one's not bad. He jumped in front of Hawkeye, who was slowly getting up and trying to resist, and the scepter pointed at his chest. Hawkeye's expression suddenly struggled, his eyes quickly turned blue, and he put the gun back. Loki smiled in satisfaction, and walked over to the shivering Dr. Eric. Nick Fury watched all this in shock. He quietly put the tesseract into a box, closed the lid and wanted to leave. Put the box down, I need it, I came all the way here for it. He looked at Nick Fury and announced loudly, let me introduce myself, I'm Loki, from God's domain, with a great mission that you can't understand. Loki? People from God's domain. Nick Fury knew some information that others didn't know, and he blurted out, are you Thor's younger brother? Don't mention this name to me. Loki suddenly raged, I am the real king of Asgard. Okay, don't get excited, no matter who is the boss, at least we should have no grievances, right? Nick Fury interrupted his self-congratulations. Loki glanced at him, and said calmly, ants in your shoes have no enmity. I came this time to bring you good news. Your so-called freedom has bound you. Surrender to me, the great god of mischief, and the earth will have eternal peace. Nick Fury raised his forehead, why does this guy like to pretend like Thor? He tried to stall for time, but was spotted by the renegade Hawkeye. Loki knocked him down, snatched the tesseract and walked away. In the parking lot, Maria Hill watched Loki, Hawkeye and the others strutting out, and quickly noticed the clue. He drove quickly to catch up. With skillful driving and marksmanship, she manages to block Loki. It's a pity that her strength is not as good as Hawkeye's, and she can't stop him at all. Boom! There was a loud crash, and Nick Fury, Phil Coulson and Maria Hill, who were wounded, turned on their communicators to exchange what they knew. The Rubik's Cube was taken by the enemy, and our personnel suffered casualties. Hill climbed out of the wrecked car and yelled, a lot of people have been buried alive. I don't know how many will survive. They need rescue. Call the rescue team, rescue the wounded. Nick Fury finished, and added, assemble everyone who did not participate in the rescue, and take back the tesseract. Phil Coulson, you go back to the base and issue a 7 alarm. From the current situation, the war has ended, here we go. Understood. However, the opponent's strength is far beyond our imagination. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to deal with the opponent with the means we have. Phil Coulson reminded Nick Fury. Nick Fury was silent for a while, and finally said slowly, then dispatch the Avengers. Chapter 90 The Avengers Assemble. Agent Romanoff, we need you to return to S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as possible. Phil Coulson's anxious voice came from the phone. In the messy living room, Natalia's dead body was lying on the sofa. Because he brought Thor down in the ring again, he suffered tragic revenge. She lazily picked up her phone, please, I'm on a mission, it will take a little time. The situation here is urgent for you. Something happened to the Tesseract, and Barton is controlled by the enemy. Natalia's lazy expression quickly became serious, and she immediately said coldly, what do you need me to do? Officially implement the Avengers' plan. Damn it, shouldn't I go and get those guys? They don't communicate well. What's the matter? The Bureau is looking for you. After hanging up the phone, Thor took the phone with a smile. Who are you responsible for? Stark or Hulk? No, Natalia said with a smile like a flower, my task is to test your attitude. Because it's Loki. Natalia had such an expression as expected. You already knew. Thor nodded. S.H.I.E.L.Ds excessive use of Tesseract energy will inevitably be noticed by some forces in the universe. For them, this is a signal. Signal. A signal that the Earth is ready for a high-level war. Natalia understood a little bit, she asked without getting to the bottom of it, and returned to the previous topic. What about your attitude? Will you help us? Thor waved his hand. If I make a move, I can only temporarily solve this trouble. S.H.I.E.L.D will not learn the lesson, they will only be more enthusiastic about weapon research. The consequences this time are still controllable, and it may not be the case next time. Then you won't make a move. Until Nick Fury realizes the mistake, I won't take action for the time being. However, before that, I can ask her to help first. Thor pointed to Jane Foster. As the new Thor, Jane's strength can deal with a more than enough, Loki. In a remote town, Bruce Banner looked helplessly at the bald head in front of him. I've been hiding here, why do you still bother me? Who are you, from the military? Nick Fury shook his head. No, I'm from SHIELD. We've been keeping an eye on people with super abilities like this. Over the past year or so, we've blocked many people for you. Bruce Banner is very smart. S.H.I.E.L.D will not help him resist the pressure of the military for no reason. He smiled bitterly. Then what purpose do you have? What do you want from me? It's not what we want, but the world needs you. An evil existence from extraterrestrials snatched the Tesseract, and the consequences are unpredictable. The gamma rays emitted by the Rubik's Cube are so weak that we can't track them, and you are the one who knows the gamma rays best. So you didn't come here to catch monsters. No, it's not a monster. For this type of super ability, S.H.I.E.L.D sees it as a potential avenger. Outside the gate of Stark's industry, Phil Coulson, who had gone through untold hardships and was severely molested by Stark, heaved a sigh of relief. It is really difficult to convince this playboy. He picked up his cell phone and called Nick Fury. Boss, Tony Stark got it done. Your Bruce Banner got it done too? So there's only one Captain America left. Shall I inform him? No, it's already taken care of by Steve. 10 minutes ago, Captain America, who was boxing, received a call from Thor. Steve, the world needs you again, are you ready? I'm always ready. Chapter 91 Shaking Sen is dead? You're playing with fire, Commander. It's not an energy you can control. S.H.I.E.L.D's headquarters, Nick Fury, was wrangling with a group of counselors. Have you ever fought a war? Senator, in a real war, you don't want to be controlled by others. Nick Fury retorted. You mean, God's domain has declared war on us? It's not God's domain, it's Loki, he can't represent God's domain. What about his brother? What's the attitude of that Thor? A congresswoman asked. There is no malice towards us at the moment, and I promised to let the people from Trudheim Manor come to help, and helped me persuade Captain America to take action. You have the best agent group in the world to mobilize under your command, but you choose to hand over the work of saving the world to a group of freaks, the congressman said sharply. Nick Fury said in a deep voice, correct me, they are not freaks, but a group of ordinary people with special abilities. Also, I need a special 07 response team. They may not obey orders enough, and may even lose control. But I believe that as long as applied properly, they will be the most suitable candidates. Why do you trust them? By 70 years ago, we believed them, so the war was won. On the other side, evil forces are urging Loki. The Kirita people are starting to feel uneasy. When will you be able to open the portal? It won't take long. As long as your army is as strong as you say. Loki said flatly. Are you questioning our army? Questioning the person who gave you the scepter. The voice on the other side became angry. Don't forget, who gave you this opportunity? At that time, you were defeated. I am the king of Asgard. I have been betrayed. Loki became excited. Don't forget, the Tesseract is in my hands now. Before I open the portal, I have the final say on how to act. Okay, people of God's domain, go fight your battle, and when you fail, your so-called kingdom will never be thought of again. The entire universe will no longer have your hiding place, and he will find you. Show you what a real nightmare is. Loki's phantom disappears. Will he succeed? According to the information we have learned, his brother is also on Earth. Ebony Maw bowed and said to the ugly sitting Thanos. Thanos paused, his originally purple face showing signs of turning black. For countless years, he has taken the initiative to invade other planets, and no one has ever attacked his lair. And Thor not only broke into number 2 holy place, but also robbed his daughter after making a fuss. Even if it wasn't his own, he slapped him hard on the face. He shot together with Black Order, but failed to keep him. For Thanos, who has always been proud, it is tantamount to the biggest black history. He is just a pawn exploring the way. Success or failure is not important. Infinite gems needs to be gathered together to implement a great plan. Before that, it doesn't make much difference whether there are 1 or 2. The locations of the 4 gems have been confirmed, and now there are only Reality Gem and Soul Gem left. Is there any clue? He turned his head and asked Gamera. Gamera tried hard to shake her head expressionlessly. No, I've searched many places, but found nothing. Thanos nodded, not in doubt. He never suspected Gamera. He said to himself, I have a hunch that all this will end in a few years. A large crowd of people was blocked on the street in Berlin. Loki was now on the high platform, raised the scepter and knocked it down hard. I said, kneel down. The light of Mind Gem flashed, and the crowd knelt down slowly. Seeing this scene, Loki was instantly satisfied. He said slowly, isn't this right? Your race is born to be like this. The more he said, the more excited he became. Human beings are like this. The temptation of freedom deprives you of happiness. You are crazy about power and status, and you are eager to be enslaved. You are full of servility in your bones, and you are destined to be ruled by the strong. A white-haired old man broke free, stood up and shouted loudly, but it won't be for someone like you. I have lived for so many years, and I have seen many shameless people like you. Being teased by an old man like this, the third princess couldn't hold back anymore, and he became angry from embarrassment. Look at this old guy, he will be your role model. He raised the scepter, and a blast of energy shot out. A figure dressed in stars and stripes jumped in front of the old man, raised a shield to block the energy. Steve stood up and said slowly, the last time I was here, there was also a person here who wanted to put himself above others, so he knelt down. Loki was disdainful, a private? You're out of date. It's not me who is old-fashioned. I have to say, you are far from your brother. Steve inadvertently provoked Loki again, and he rushed forward angrily, and the two wrestled together. A meteor flashed across the sky, and Stark's frivolous voice came from Natalia's address book, Romanoff 477 Agent, did you miss me? A smile flickered at the corner of Natalia's mouth, I never knew I had such a big nephew. Shit. A gloomy look flashed across Stark's face. It's not scary to have an acquaintance with a high seniority, but what's scary is that this guy even brought a large group of people up to seniority. Stark turned grief and anger into strength, and the intense laser bombardment sent Loki flying. He landed on the ground, opened his mask, pointed at Loki with his hand, and a laser cannon was ready to go. Drop your weapon and raise your hand, Bambi. Although Loki was going to pretend to be captured, but he's been in a bad mood recently and he's going to vent his anger. And the nickname Stark gave him made him very uncomfortable. He slowly put down the scepter, and then while Stark was relaxing, he quickly stretched out and stabbed Stark in the chest. Knocked, no response. Why is it not working? Why is it suddenly not working when it was working all the time? Stark was startled at first, and then reacted. He comforted, man, if you don't pay attention, you will die. We already know that you can't do it, so don't emphasize it. Chapter 92, Loki and number 039, S Conspiracy. Bang! Loki, who was furious, knocked Stark away with a stick, fully proving that decentness dies from talking too much. Loki raised his staff high and shouted at Stark, "Mortal, dare to insult the gods, you will pay the price." Before he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning struck his celestial spirit cover, and at the same time, he was hit hard on the back of the head, causing him to fall to the ground like a dog eating shit. He turned his head angrily, and then saw a heroic female warrior in black armor holding a hammer in her hand, and was stunned. Wow! Seeing a really beautiful fighter for the first time, Tony whistled excitedly, and pushed Steve beside him. "Old Popsicle, I suddenly believe that the story of Hua Mulan is true." Steve looked serious. "Tony, don't call people casual nicknames. Also, this should be Miss Jane from Trudheim Manor, you should call her Auntie." "Bar. Damn it, I shouldn't be talking to you." Stark scowled, taking a few steps away. Here, Loki looked at the hammer in Miss Jane's hand. Even though he had heard about it a long time ago, he was still shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. 843 My brother is really willing to give Mjolnir to you? It's unbelievable. He was It's a precious hammer, and I wear women's clothing for this. Oh, this is big news. Tony suddenly felt how wise it was to take part in this operation. Miss Jian told this illusion last time, and she didn't react much, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. In the communicator, Thor's voice came, "Beat him hard, just keep breathing." "Got it." Jane replied briskly, throwing the hammer. "Stupid mortals, do you think you can compete with the gods by raising Mjolnir?" Loki looked disdainful, raised the scepter and rushed up. A few minutes later. Impossible. Loki lay on the ground in disbelief, unable to move with the hammer on his back. He had no choice but to hit GG. Loki was captured and temporarily imprisoned in a special cell on the space carrier. It seems that the biggest problem has been solved, and everyone's attention has been put down on another matter. Why did Tesseract attract the attention of alien planets? Whether it's Tony Stark, or Steve, they all have doubts about SHIELD. As Nick Fury tries to explain, Captain America slams a new weapon on the table. S.H.I.E.L.D. is making weapons out of Rubik's Cube, just like Hydra was 70 years ago. Nick Fury was about to explain when Stark cut him off. "Come on, there is no need to deny it, I have already completed the analysis. No wonder, it will attract people from alien planets. It is said that because of Hydra's behavior, it woke up the attention of an evil alien named Supergiant. Fortunately, Thor stopped her. Unexpectedly, today's S.H.I.E.L.D. did the same. The world has not changed at all." Captain America was also filled with righteous indignation. Natalia suddenly realized, no wonder Thor had expected this incident long ago, but didn't remind him. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing something shady, even if you remind him, it's useless. "Why do you want to do this, can you tell me, Director?" Jane Foster nodded, acquiescing to her statement. Nick Fury said with a blank expression, "It is precisely because of the appearance of Thor that many people have realized the existence of other civilizations, and human beings must have strong enough weapons to protect themselves. However, we all know that Thor and Asgard have no ill will towards the Earth." Natalia argued. "Yes, he didn't. But what about the other planets? If there is an Asgard, there will be other planets, and those planets may not be friendly to us." "Ada," Jane Foster spoke up, "Thor said that it was S.H.I.E.L.D's development of weapons that attracted Loki. Tesseract's energy fluctuations are a signal to other planets the Earth has get ready to fight a high-level war. It was the same 70 years ago, and it was the same 17 years ago. Facing the threat of foreign enemies, we must have the power to make the enemy afraid. Such as nuclear deterrence? That's really effective. Stark said with a sarcasm, unexpectedly, we have returned to the era of carrying nuclear buttons with us, which is really interesting. A man who has made his fortune selling arms, actually has the position to say such a thing. The debate has become more and more intense, and has even turned from the topic of the beginning to the attack on life. The unique sensitivity of women made both Natalia and Jane Foster aware that something was wrong. The team seemed to be disintegrated right after its establishment. No one noticed that the scepter containing the mind gem was emitting a faint blue light. No one noticed that a group of people with strange lights in their eyes had infiltrated the helicarrier led by Hawkeye. Boom! There was a huge amount of explosion, and the sky and the earth shook immediately, interrupting the crowd who were about to make a move. Not good. Natalia was the first to discover the problem. She shouted, "Calm down, we are affected by the scepter. Engine number 3 malfunctioned. It's not a serious problem for a while, but we can't fix it." Hill's voice came from the communicator. "I'll fix it." Stark quickly got up to the direction of storing the war application. Boom! Another series of explosions sounded, and a large number of enemies rushed into the space carrier. Everyone in the room woke up instantly, and just about to react, there was another violent explosion, the floor cracked, and Natalia and Bruce Banner, who were far away from the door, fell through the crack together. A heavy steel pipe fell and hit the legs of the two of them heavily. Severe pain came from the calf, but Natalia had no mind to deal with it. She urgently shouted to Banner, "Hold on! Don't let it come out!" Unfortunately, without transforming into a Hulk, Banner is just a frail scientist who doesn't have the endurance of an agent at all. Under the severe pain, he let out a burst of screams, and the speed of his heartbeat rose rapidly, and soon approached the threshold of 200. Natalia endured the severe pain and finally pulled her leg out from under the steel pipe. Before she had time to check her injuries, a huge amounts of roar sounded, and her heart suddenly fell to the bottom. Seeing Hulk approaching slowly with a ferocious face, Natalia didn't dare to hesitate anymore, turned around and ran away. Chapter 93, Phil Coulson and Number 039, S Sacrifice. In the breach of the helicarrier, Stark piloted the armor while commanding Captain America to help. "Go to the engine control box and tell me which switches are overloaded." "Okay." Steve jumped a few times, came to the control cabinet, and opened the panel. "Looks like it's just a bunch of circuit boards." "Very professional answer." Stark's face darkened. Boom! Natalia fell heavily to the ground, cornered by Hulk. Hulk rushed up a few steps, held it high, and punched it down. Natalia raised her arms to resist in vain. The magic bracelet barely blocked her 3 punches, her hands were already numb, and Hulk hit another heavy punch. She closed her eyes in despair, only one thing in her heart: thoughts, will you come to rescue me at the last moment like 12 years ago? Bang! The expected death did not come, and a harsh electric shock sounded. She opened her eyes expectantly, and a figure in black armor and a red cloak stood in front of her. "Jane, we are not his opponents, don't fight him head on." Although this equipment is very similar to Thor, Miss Jane's strength is basically known to her, so she quickly reminded. Miss Jane held the hammer tightly without saying a word, staring at Hulk vigilantly. In the collision just now, she realized that her strength was a bit far from that of Hulk, and only by making good use of Mjolnir's strength could she have a chance. Hulk didn't attack right away, but looked puzzled. Miss Jane's battle armor brought back some of his memories. It seems to be very similar to that big hunk who tore up Hatred. But even though Hulk was stupid, he could still tell if it was a man or a woman. After only a few seconds of silence, Hulk punched him. Miss Jane, who had been prepared for a long time, quickly turned her head to avoid the punch, and then hit Hulk's armpit with a hammer. Hulk snorted in pain, and immediately a serious green light flashed, and he roared angrily, and the whole person rushed forward. Natalia hurried up to help, and the two worked together to deal with Hulk. In a hidden corner, Thor watched the cooperation between the two and nodded secretly. He definitely wouldn't let Natalia have an accident, and came to the space carrier through the portal when the explosion sounded. If Miss Jane hadn't arrived in time, he would have rescued her in advance. With the tacit cooperation between the two, Hulk will not be able to hurt them for a while, and Thor turns to another place. Hey, congratulations for triggering the Hawkeye-related mission, Mind Barrier. You will be rewarded for completing the mission. Mind Barrier, Barton agent was controlled by Mind Gem and became an important member of Loki's plan. This incident is regarded as a shame in his life. After that, he will do this training to gain resistance to mind control magic. Mission objective: return Hawkeye who has been mind controlled to normal. Mission reward: immune to any mind control magic. In one aisle, Clint Barton was moving fast, trying to create more chaos and buy time. Thor fell from the sky and landed in front of him. Hawkeye quickly drew an arrow and let it rest on the bow. Under control, he stabbed his allies back without any pressure. Seeing the rich blue light in his eyes, Thor knew that his current control was still very deep. Usually, to deal with this kind of situation, a mind-purifying magic can solve it, and the Queen Mother Frigga will. The problem is that Thor can't. Although he is a master of both magic and martial arts, most of the magic he learns is offensive. Mind purification doesn't work. Then, use physical purification. Bang bang bang! When Natalia and Jane Foster rushed over panting and dragging Bruce Banner, they saw that they were waving "Give me back the punch" to Hawkeye's head. Thor! Oh, my God! Miss Jane exclaimed. Although this guy was controlled and temporarily became an enemy, the fight was too miserable. Hey, Agent Barton is a colleague of S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway, don't beat him to death. Natalia joked. Drib. Congratulations to the host for completing the task, the mind barrier is rewarded, immune to any mind control. Done. Thor threw Hawkeye away and handed it over to an agent who was already stunned. 0, seeking flowers, 0. Don't worry, I'm not serious. There's something wrong with this guy's brain. I'll wake him up. Thor gave her a reassuring look and asked, how's the situation? Where's Loki? The engine has been repaired. Loki ran away and disappeared. Moreover, Phil Coulson agent died. Natalia's face was a little heavy, and her relationship with Phil Coulson was still good. In fact, this good old man has a good relationship with most people. Sad news, Loki escaped and killed Agent Phil Coulson. Nick Fury announced heavily. Stark, Steve, and Bruce Banner, who had just woken up, all looked serious and listened quietly without saying a word. Thor pouted. I admit, S.H.I.E.L.D. does use Tesseract to make weapons. But I never put my bet on it, but put my hope on a riskier project. That's my ideal, Stark should know. Let's call it Avengers. No matter how powerful a weapon is, it needs excellent soldiers to use it. Gather the best people in the world together, and when the world needs them, they will work together to defeat the enemy we cannot defeat. Phil Coulson believed this until his death. He believed in heroes. His death is my responsibility. But now, we must focus on the overall situation. Neither Stark nor Steve responded. The purpose of Loki is to open the portal, which requires a lot of energy. Maybe we can start around the various nuclear power plants. Stark expressed his thoughts. No, I know Loki. His character, he will not be willing to implement the plan in a sparsely populated area, he will definitely choose a densely populated place. It is best to have iconic and individual buildings. Thor reminded. Stark was taken aback. Densely populated? Sufficient energy? Iconic buildings with personality? Immediately, his face turned pale with shock. Damn it! This bastard must have been eyeing my building. Chapter 94 Chiruta Invasion. Stark hastily put on his badly damaged armor and stumbled out. Natalia glanced at Thor, seeing that he didn't stop him, and said immediately, "The Stark building is the most likely, and the population around it is also the most concentrated, so let's go there first." Steve, Bruce Banner, and others quickly followed. "I'm going too." A resolute voice sounded, and Clint Barton stood at the door in full armor. "This time I take a lot of responsibility and I have to make it up." Natalia nodded, and greeted everyone to get on a fighter plane and head towards New York. "Need to call her back?" Nick Fury asked Thor. This time the crisis was beyond expectations, and he couldn't help but think of the communicator left by Captain Marvel back then. 940 Thor shook his head. "No need, the invaders this time are at most some cannon fodder troops. As long as the Asgardians on Earth are still there will be no too powerful enemies." After a pause, he continued, "Besides, the Earth needs this ordeal to wake up those who are immersed in the illusion of peace. Otherwise, when the Asgardians leave in a few years and the other party invades in an all-round way, the defenseless Earth may be the first can't resist a wave." This passage reveals two pieces of information. One is that the Earth will suffer the most terrible invasion in a few years. The other is, the Avengers failed to prevent the portal war from breaking out in New York. "Hill Agent, quickly notify the evacuated New Yorkers." Nick Fury broke out in a cold sweat. However, the top officials in Washington will not agree to evacuate a city with a population of 8 million. Even if it is passed, there will be at least a month's meeting. Damn it! Nick Fury's face turned black and glowing. He had already encountered terrible consequences. "Calm down, black-corned egg." Thor held him down. "You said you should trust the Avengers. They will try their best to protect civilians. Besides, the ones who can really destroy New York will not be aliens, it's the politicians." After saying this meaningfully, Thor turned his head. "Hello, Hill Agent, can you take me to see Jerson's body?" Hill was taken aback. Nick Fury's eyes flashed, and he whispered, "Take him." On a hospital bed, Phil Coulson lay unconscious. His breathing has stopped, but the electrocardiogram on the side is still fluctuating. "Are you planning to save him with the GH325 drug that is still in the experimental stage?" "Yes," Nick Fury said in a deep voice. "During the experimental stage, most of the experimental subjects had mental problems after recovery. But there is no other way." "You don't have it, I have it." Thor took out a bottle of potion. "Extremis is not diluted, how about Tesseract?" Although the loss was huge, Nick Fury, who had suffered a loss, still agreed. After this disaster, he couldn't wait to give away the hot potato Tesseract. What's more, the Rubik's Cube is still in Loki's hands. After the Extremis was injected, the wound began to heal slowly. His injuries have been brought under control, and his life is safe. He just needs to recuperate for a while. After Thor finished speaking, he opened the portal and left. On the top of the Stark building, a blue light shines into the sky, as if communicating with heaven and earth. Stark took off his broken armor and waited for the Mark 7 to start up, stalling for time. Loki laughed wildly. "We have an army. What do you have against it?" Stark said flatly, "We have Hulk." "The big guy? Hey, I thought he got lost." "We also have Thor, and while he's a very nasty guy, he's said to be good at beating you up." Loki's smile froze, and he said angrily, "Annoying me won't do you any good. I'd like to see what happens when you and your teammates turn against each other." He lifted the scepter and touched Stark's chest. However, nothing happened. "Damn it, I've never failed. Why can't I fail even though I don't have armor?" Loki sighed. Stark made up the knife. "I told you that you can't do it, but I don't believe it." Loki grabbed him by the neck. "This man is so mean. My army is coming, you will all kneel before me." He threw down the building. At this moment, the Mark 7 was finally launched, flew out quickly, and caught Tony. At the same time, at the end of the beam of light in the sky, a pitch black hole was getting bigger and bigger, and hideous alien creatures swooped down in planes they had never seen before. "It's amazing, it's a sci-fi blockbuster," Stark groaned, facing the overwhelming Cheeritas in the sky. Boom! There was a huge amount of roar, which finally alarmed the crowd below. Huge amounts of wreckage fell one by one, and the crowd fled in all directions amidst exclamations. "Damn it, it's too late after all, the war has already started." Steve sighed and shouted, "Jane, Natalia, you go to support Stark Banner and Clint help evacuate the people." The crowd dispersed, and he pointed to a group of stunned policemen. "This is not an enemy you can fight against, leave it to us, and you are responsible for the rescue." The policemen looked confused, not knowing whether to listen or not. At this time, a Kyryuita soldier rushed towards a frightened child on the side of the road. Steve didn't even think about it, he swooped in, raised the shield, and killed the Zerita soldier with a single blow. The shocked child looked up and shouted excitedly, "Captain America 4.9. You are Captain America. I knew that Captain America would protect us." "Captain America?" The policemen were shocked, and then noticed the shield, and their expressions changed instantly. "Follow your arrangement, Captain," the leading police officer said solemnly. In a remote corner, Bruce Banner and a group of people were blocked in the alley by a group of Kirita biochemical soldiers. Looking at the terrified people behind him, Banner sighed. He turned back with a gentle face and said, "Don't worry, there won't be any." Looking back, the muscles in his body slowly swelled up, tearing his clothes. "I'm sorry you pissed me off." A loud roar sounded. Chapter 95 Nuclear Peace Settlement. Boom! Seeing Hulk carrying a car in front of him, like whack-a-mole, hammering a Cheerita Hulk, the crowd behind were stunned. Today is the first time they have seen this terrifying alien creature, and the super fierce Hulk who protects himself. It turns out that aliens really exist. Oh, bad! Tony, who had killed a large number of Cheerita, saw 10 super ministers roaring in the sky not far away, Leviathan. He released a wave of missiles to bombard it, but it was unscathed. He turned his head to attract the Leviathan giant Kun, and opened the communication, "Call for support, there is a large shrimp here, my attack seems to have no effect. Lead to the lower city, Hulk is over there." Steve's voice came from the address book. "Understood." Stark quickly flew up, throwing missiles towards the rear to attract aggro, and flew in the direction of Hulk. Hulk was like a tiger jumping into a flock of sheep, ravaging Cheerita's soldiers crazily. The opponent's weapons could hardly penetrate his skin, but his size and strength were enough to kill Cheerita in an instant. "Hulk, get angry!" Stark shouted loudly and flew over, with the supergiant Kun behind him. Hulk roared, rushed forward and punched hard, making a loud noise. Leviathan's head collapsed, and pieces of armor fell off. Stark immediately released a dozen missiles, which smashed through the shed armor, and then a violent explosion occurred in its body, and the mighty Leviathan finally fell down. Stark just breathed a sigh of relief, raised his head, and found 2 Leviathans appeared in the distance, flying towards them. A huge amount of Leviathan fell from the sky, and its huge body fell apart. Thor clapped his hands and rushed to the next target. Ordinary Kyryuitas can be handed over to others to deal with, and his target is only the giant Leviathan. Loki is sitting in a fighter plane, patrolling the battlefield, causing chaos here and there. A hammer flew from a distance, and the plane that couldn't dodge it exploded on the spot, and Loki fell heavily onto the balcony, of the Stark building. "Surrender. Then close the portal." Loki got up from the ground, held up the scepter, stared at Jane Foster and said, "I don't believe it, I won't be able to beat you." He jumped on it angrily. Although Loki, as the giants of Jotunheim, has good physical fitness, but Jane Foster has gone through the strengthening of Mjolnir and the training of Thor these days, so he is not inferior to Loki at all for a while. On the helicarrier, Nick Fury looked at the endless Kiritas on the screen, his expression a little ugly. The so-called cannon fodder troops are so difficult to deal with, how far will the real decisive battle go in the future? Sir, the Council is calling. Hill stepped forward to report. Nick Fury's face was a little dignified. Those guys, under normal circumstances, would not interfere with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s affairs, but once they interfere, there is often no good thing. He remembered Thor's words, the ones who can really destroy New York will not be aliens, but those politicians. With a frozen face, I made a video call. A congresswoman spoke up. Director Nick Fury, after a unanimous council discussion, has made a decision to use nuclear bombs on New York. I will not execute such a stupid order. Your warship is the closest to the battlefield, immediately dispatch a fighter plane. Another councillor ordered, but was interrupted by Nick Fury. Once again, I will not carry out such an order. Unless my team is completely defeated, I will never drop a nuclear bomb on my own civilians. If you can't stop them, the whole world will be finished. The members of the Congress were all stern. If a nuclear bomb is used, it will be really irreparable. Marinade interrupted the call directly. In the eyes of these politicians, the lives of civilians are not life at all. In their eyes, using nuclear bombs on 8 million people will only result in finding someone to take the blame. Moreover, the nuclear bomb may not be able to destroy the portal, but it will destroy New York in vain. Bang! Hulk punched hard, pushing Loki, who was fighting Miss Jane, into the building. Loki stood up and roared angrily, "Enough! You humble human beings, I tell you, I am a god. You don't want to humiliate me again." Before he finished speaking, Hulk, who was already impatient, grabbed one of his legs and started beating him to death on the ground, 3 times to the left and 3 times to the right, twisting his neck and buttocks. After a brutal ravage, Hulk threw Loki on the ground contentedly, and took a sip. Weak chicken god. Loki lay on the ground with a face full of lovelessness, the blue light in his eyes slowly dissipating. It seems that the brain has been beaten. There are more and more Chirita legions in the sky, seemingly endless. Numerous Kyryuita soldiers flying fighter planes fired wildly at all places. Even if it is as strong as Hulk, there is nothing to do. Natalia, you need to touch the Rubik's Cube with this scepter to close the portal. I will cover you and tear a hole for you. Thor shouted to Natalia beside him. A huge amount of lightning scattered countless branches in the sky, and wiped out the Chiruta fighter in a short time, and the pressure on the Avengers was relieved. Natalia picked up the scepter and quickly ran to the roof. Thor closed his eyes, and after brewing for a few seconds, a thunderbolt several hundred meters thick and the most powerful in history focused in the air to a thickness of a few centimeters before hitting the Tesseract's barrier. Boom! Amidst the loud noise, a crack that was only as wide as one person appeared in the impenetrable barrier, and it shrank rapidly. Natalia rolled over, jumped into the barrier, lifted the scepter, and was about to put it on the Tesseract. Wait! Stark yelled anxiously. There are more and more enemies, the later you close the portal, the greater the loss. Captain America reminded. I know. But, I have a nuclear bomb here. If it explodes in New York, the whole New York will be over. Stark carried the nuclear bomb and rushed over without hesitation. Chapter 96, Rubik's Cube in hand. A few minutes ago, the flight crew on the space carrier received a message: Commander Fury has been deprived of authority, acting as an Order 7A11. 7A11 has been confirmed and is ready to take off. Sir, there is an abnormality on the deck, a plane took off illegally. Maria Hill looked anxious, she guessed the reason for the plane to take off, and shouted into the communicator, the takeoff has not been approved, stop immediately. Attention everyone, stop that plane. Nick Fury knew that the council had bypassed him and gave the order, and he took a bazooka and rushed up to the deck, and the Japanese cannon hit the wing. Just when he breathed a sigh of relief, another plane rushed off the runway and took off, and there was no time to stop it. Nick Fury threw the rocket launcher in his hand angrily, and picked up the communicator. "Stark, can you hear me? A plane carrying a nuclear bomb is flying towards New York, and it will arrive in about 3 minutes. Stark was shocked. New York is in chaos now. Once the nuclear bomb explodes, it will at least cause millions of deaths and injuries. He didn't care about entanglement with the miscellaneous soldiers, input all the energy into the propeller, and met the nuclear bomb flying in the distance. Damn it! Those idiots in the council actually dropped nuclear bombs on their own people. Natalia couldn't help but cursed. Leave it to me, I have experience in space. Thor knows that it is very risky for Stark to send a nuclear bomb into the portal. Although the original work is successful, no one can guarantee that he will come back alive this time. He pushed Stark away, took the nuke, and rushed towards the portal. Natalia, close the portal immediately. Natalia was stunned for a moment, then shouted in random horror, "No, I'll wait for you to come back. Idiot, the nuclear bomb can't hurt me, and I can use space magic, so I can come back immediately no matter where I am. Shut down immediately to prevent nuclear shock and radiation from affecting the city. Believe your highness, he once fought his way through my father's headquarters." Xin Yun, who arrived at an unknown time, said. She is the one who knows Thor's strength best, and the person who can make a big fuss in holy place number 2 and walk away is definitely not something that a nuclear bomb or a mere Kirita can handle. Natalia gritted her teeth and shouted, "Come back alive." Then she ruthlessly hit the authority on the Rubik's Cube. There was a loud noise in the sky, and huge amounts of the portal began to slowly close. Thor rushed through the portal and disappeared into the air. After a few seconds, the portal completely disappeared. Carrying the nuclear bomb, he rushed to the Chirita mothership, stopped at the front, and sneered at the terrified Zerita commander in the cabin behind the glass, "Thank Thanos for sending me the mind gem. Oh, you have no chance." A bolt of lightning shattered the glass of the cabin and sent the nuclear bomb in. A golden halo appeared behind him, and the whole person disappeared into it. On Earth, the members of the Avengers are fighting to resist the constantly steady Chirita army. In addition to the Avengers team, Nebula, Minerva, War Machine Rhodes, Falcon, Sam Wilson and others have all joined the battlefield, and the situation is precarious. Suddenly, the Leviathan giant Kun in the air seemed to lose control in an instant, and fell heavily. At the same time, Chiruta's soldiers also fell one by one. "No, Thor hasn't come back yet!" Natalia exclaimed suddenly, and everyone else became nervous. "Damn it, I should have gone." Stark stamped his feet, and Steve and the others also had complex expressions. "I'm going to ask, who launched the nuclear bomb?" Natalia had a murderous look on her face, and Black Widow's aura was fully revealed. "Wait a minute, Mjolnir told me that Thor is fine." Miss Jane stopped Natalia. As old partners for thousands of years, there is a connection between them. The Avengers breathed a sigh of relief. Nick Fury on the helicarrier was also relieved to see the nuclear bomb sent into the portal and the Kirita fell. He secretly made up his mind that these cold-blooded politicians must not let the Avengers be controlled, otherwise it will only bring greater disaster. "I'd like a glass of wine, if I may." In the office of the Stark building, Loki, who regained his sanity, surrendered to the Avengers, and he was used to it anyway. The elevator door opened, and a team of commandos came in, and the leader, Sitwell, said, "Give us the scepter, and we will keep it safe." "Zero, ask for flowers." Natalia squinted her eyes, but still gave him the scepter. Although she knew he was not a good person, it was not the time to turn her face. "Attention, this thing is very dangerous, it was controlled by it." Sitwell nodded, "I'll keep an eye out. As for the Tesseract, Your chief has agreed to hand it over to me. Thor's voice came from behind, sorry, I'm late. Thor's space teleportation level is limited, and the ultra-long distance teleportation has some deviations, and it actually teleported to the edge of the solar system, so it took more time. 0. Speaking of which, if it wasn't for a divine body like myself, ordinary magicians wouldn't dare to engage in interstellar teleportation without being sure, not to mention accidentally running on the Sunday. The vacuum environment alone can make most crispy magicians kneel. Thor grabbed the tesseract up and looked at it. Sitwell was stunned, and a random group of people raised their guns and aimed at Thor. Put down the tesseract. This is the property of S.H.I.E.L.D. Thor sneered, just kidding, my father put tesseract on the earth for thousands of years to prevent the energy from being abused. When did it become your S.H.I.E.L.D. thing? Sitwell agent, put down the gun, Thor is not the enemy. Natalia shouted. Stark also raised his palm, and the laser cannon was ready to go. This is my territory, I suggest you don't be impulsive. At this time, Nick Fury's voice came from the communicator, put down the gun. The Tesseract belongs to Asgard. However, Secretary Pierce said. Now I'm the director. Sitwell hesitated for a while, put down the gun with a black face. On the helicarrier, Nick Fury explained to Hill and others beside him, not to mention that I promised him, the energy of the Tesseract is originally too dangerous and can easily attract the attention of evil forces. Earth is not ready for high-level war. Chapter 97 Legendary Doctor History Legend. In a dark corner of the universe, a gloomy voice sounded. Earthlings are not as weak as we imagined. They're tough, they're rebellious, and it's hard for them to be ruled by others. Most importantly, that bloody Asgardian is helping Earth. He's offended us more than once. Wong sat up, and a burly figure turned around slowly, with a cruel smile on his purple-like face. He won't have a chance to be arrogant again soon. Odin is getting old. When Odin is gone, he will pay for what he did. According to the information sent this time, it seems that the traitor Xing Yun is also on Earth. Let her go, she will pay the price for her betrayal back then. May 13th. Cheers. Having won this tough battle, the Avengers need to relax. Originally, Stark proposed to go to a nearby barbecue restaurant, but under Thor's strong opposition, the meeting place was transferred to the banquet hall of Stark building. Because Thor knew that the barbecue restaurant was actually very bad. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking Loki back to be judged by Asgard. What's next for everyone? Thor asked. Oh, I'm leaving again, what can I do? I can only cry secretly. The widow pretended to wipe her tears, and her tone was full of resentment. Really cheated by her? Come on, who doesn't know that you are the famous Black Widow, so don't pretend to be a little woman. Thor laughed and complained, and Natalia gave Natalia a blank look. There's a very interesting celestial phenomenon recently. I can take the time to study it carefully after you leave. Miss Jian muttered while resting her chin, her tone a little excited. Recently, I have been trained by Thor every day, and my own research time is gone. I promised Pepper, after this time, take off the armor and spend some time with her. Thor thought of something, and asked, haven't you thought about taking out the shrapnel in your body? Although the reactor can also sustain life, it will consume more energy for the armor function at the same time. Do you plan to carry it for a lifetime? Stark smiled wryly and shook his head. I've thought about it, but I have a lot of shrapnel in my body and it's finely fragmented, so it's very difficult to take it out. Because of my identity, many doctors dare not take risks. Not to mention the famous Iron Man, the whole American, the status of the richest man makes most doctors dare not use the knife. What a surprise, it's over for a lifetime. Thor thought for a while, and said uncertainly, you need the best surgeon. Maybe, I have a candidate. He picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. Hi, is that Dr. Palmer? I am, are you? Thor. A timid female voice came from the phone. It's me, I want to inquire, is there a surgeon named Strange in your hospital? You're talking about Dr. Stephen Strange? He was transferred recently. His surgical skills are the highest in our hospital, but he's not well known at the moment. How do you know him? It's not important. What's important is that I have a chance to make him famous. If he succeeds, he will be famous all over the world. May I ask who it is? Dr. Palmer was a little curious. To reach the level that Thor said, the difficult operation is the second, and more importantly, the object of the operation must be famous enough. Tony Stark, the famous Iron Man, is he famous enough? After hanging up the phone, Stark asked curiously, what's the name of the doctor you're talking about? Legend of shit? Why haven't I heard of it? Is it reliable? Thor laughs, believe me, if he can't do it, there's no one in the world who can do it. But that guy has a bad temper, and his personality is very annoying, just like you before, but he is not as easy to talk to as I am. Thor added. No, when did I lose my temper? And are you sure you are easy to talk to? When Jane Foster was in a coma, she had gone to that Dr. Palmer. At that time, Thor just thought that the other party was very beautiful, but didn't take it to heart. Later, when the other party left, he handed him a business card, and Thor saw his full name, Christine Palmer. The name may not be very famous, but she has a very good colleague, Stephen Strange, a good boy who watched 14 million movies without spoilers, and the magician who made himself drink unlimited beer, Bald Jiang's appointed successor, the famous Doctor Strange. Leaving aside the future path of magic, Shi Chuangkai's medical attainments are no worse than magic abilities. Even War Machine Rhodes, who suffered a burst fracture of his thoracic vertebrae in the future due to the flame out of his armor, is just a mere human in his eyes. It's a trivial surgery. In the middle of the night, everyone who was full of wine and food turned on the TV and watched today's news. Although this episode was confirmed as an alien invasion that caused huge amounts of losses, this group of superheroes known as Avengers is not only a relief to many people, but also a reason to celebrate. It's great to have them here. The host happily talked about his views, and then the video switched to interviews with the masses. I love you, Thor, a blonde hottie yelled into the camera. Thor's expression was a bit embarrassing, and he whispered, I'm not a casual person. Suddenly, he received a burst of contemptuous gazes. Oh my God, I met Captain America. I want to marry him. Steve was also embarrassed, his true love is Bucky. 1.8 Do you know? At that time we were all desperate, a Hulk appeared at the critical moment, oh my God, he is so handsome when he fights monsters, full of violent aesthetics. I always thought it was a monster before, I for mine apologies for the misunderstanding, the Hulk is a hero. Bruce Banner froze for a moment, he clearly felt the Hulk in his body excited. These so-called superheroes are responsible for the damage this city has suffered. They caused it, but what about their people? They pat their butts and walk away. I suggest that they be put on trial. A congressman's sharp speech attracted everyone's attention. Stark and Steve fell silent. A gleam flashed in Thor's eyes. Chapter 98 Warning. Yeah, I always feel that these so-called heroes are unreliable, and it's best to supervise them. I don't want to pin our safety on the character and morality of a few people. Another middle-aged man with a big belly said, which seemed to have aroused a lot of sympathy. This person should also be a little famous. Natalia, look up the names of the congressman and the fat man, as well as other basic information. Everyone present was startled. Steve quickly dissuaded him, Thor, don't be impulsive. Yeah, there are more than 300 million people in the United States, and there are not a few idiots. Do you think you are living in heaven? Thor smiled and shook his head, indicating that they don't have to worry. What are you thinking? I just put this guy on the blacklist. If there is any world crisis in the future, I don't need to worry about these guys and their families. Then he sneered, anyway, they don't believe in the Avengers, so go ahead and trust the politicians who threw nuclear bombs at them. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Only Thor looked a little playful, and there were more than a few idiots. This idiot congressman deliberately planted hidden dangers for Avengers and deliberately incited the emotions of the public. It was obviously used as a gun for some people. The biggest characteristic of this kind of disgusting fly is that it is submissive to aliens, but it strikes hard at superheroes. Are you leaving tomorrow? It won't be decades, will it? I won't play with you anymore. Peggy Carter joked. Definitely not. If you are worried, you can go back with me. Forget it, I'm not ready yet. Peggy shook her head. By the way, do you need me for anything? I can't find you if I have nothing to do. Thor asked doubtfully. If it's okay, you will go directly to the manor. Well, this reason is really strong. Only then did Thor seriously say, have you met any particularly powerful hackers in S.H.I.E.L.D. for so many years? Definitely, you must be absolutely trustworthy. Many people in S.H.I.E.L.D. are not the same as us. Peggy Carter's face became serious. There is one hacker who is the most powerful and absolutely trustworthy. More than 20 years ago, a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. accidentally rescued a baby while performing a mission. I originally planned to send her to an orphanage, but I found that this child was a little different, so I adopted her. You know, a lonely woman always wants company. Peggy Carter gave Thor a look, and continued, later, I found out that she has a terrifying ability in computers, so I specially asked the Agent Academy to train in this area. Although she is young, but the ability in hacking, I dare it is said that there are few in this world who can compare to her. Currently she belongs to SHIELD. Oh yes, she has always admired you. Speaking of this, Peggy Carter was a little bored. As a legendary hero of World War II, Thor originally had a terrifying popularity. The return of the king in recent incidents has made him the idol of many young people. Especially when Skye was a child, he often told her the story of Captain Black, which caused him to become Thor's fangirl since childhood. It's such a sad story. My God! Are you Captain Black? No, it should be His Royal Highness Thor. Great, I finally see you. Late at night, in the living room of an apartment, a half-race beauty looked at Thor excitedly, her eyes full of little stars. Thor is a little confused. How is this vibe girl different from the imagined one? Skye continued, you know what, you're so handsome today. Oh, you're a savior. Stop, stop. Thor couldn't bear her enthusiasm, and quickly got to the point, I need the help of an excellent hacker, and the kind that I can trust completely, can you? Skye patted his chest, the best hacker on earth is right in front of you. As for trust, do you think I'm someone who will betray you? She went up and grabbed one of Thor's arms with both hands, shaking, and a hint of cunning flashed in her eyes. I am not worried that you will betray me, but I am worried that you will make me make mistakes. Thor slandered. Thor pushed her hand away calmly and whispered something in her ear. Skye looked a little shocked, but she nodded anyway. Early the next morning, Thor took Loki back to God's domain. Stark was so bored that he turned on the TV and watched the news reports. Last night, he inquired about Doctor Strange. He is indeed an excellent surgeon. After making an appointment, he will be able to perform the operation this afternoon based on his relationship. Suddenly, the screen flickered, and the original normal report switched to another screen, all kinds of documents and materials. Is this, bribery, gangster collusion, unknown assets, various criminal records? Stark muttered, this revenge is too cruel. At the same time, all viewers watching this TV station have seen this content. Several mainstream newspapers received a thick stack of materials in the middle of the night yesterday, all of which were the black history of a high-level congressman, and today 010 made it into the headlines. The FBI dispatched on the same day, invited him to drink tea, and froze all his property at the same time, and his family members could not escape. In the case of overwhelming evidence, even the big boss behind it dare not reach out. In the eyes of many people, this guy is a victim of political struggle, and his life is finished. Only a few people know that this is revenge, a strong response to previous temptations, and a warning to them. In this position, few people are completely clean, it depends on whether anyone knows and has the ability to investigate. Fuck. Who will tell me that these contents have been completely deleted and overwritten long ago? Why can they still be dug out? Are all the newspapers eating shit? Give them the information, and write it to the newspaper without verifying it. These guys really only have traffic in their eyes. Also, why were the backstages of the three major broadcasting companies compromised at the same time? Are their defense systems all shit? In an office in Washington, a big boss roared angrily. A programmer with glasses said with a mournful face, "Report to the speaker, according to our anti-tracking results, the address of the attacker pointed to the home of Congressman Williams. It seems that he voluntarily exposed himself." Chapter 99, Jane's Potential. "You did it?" Peggy Carter asked Sky angrily. It is rare for a hacker of this level to find data that has been deleted for many years in one night, and can also paralyze the systems of the three major broadcasting companies, let alone get that special data. And there is only Sky who has this motive. Sky smiled sheepishly, and nodded, "I didn't fabricate the facts, these contents are all true. Besides, this guy is not a good person, and it would be cheap to spend a lifetime in jail him." Peggy's expression became serious. "It's no big deal to bring down a congressman who was originally problematic. But, have you thought about the other information? Once released, it will cause turmoil in the world." Sky shrugged, "It's not time to make it public." He said he hoped to never use it. Then when will it be made public? Sky coughed lightly. The following is a paraphrase of His Highness Thor's original words. He raised his voice, in the tone of Rubik's Cube Thor, "Politicians will always only consider their own interests. Just like S.H.I.E.L.D, they will reach out to superheroes sooner or later. This time it is just a temptation. In fact, there is not enough ability to suppress us. At that time, what they are most likely to do is to incite the people by various means, and use the emotions of the people to carry out moral kidnapping. On that day, I will tear off their disguise and let everyone see their faces clearly. Dear, understand yet?" Peggy Carter said with a dark face, "You don't need to repeat the last sentence." "Oh, I added that last sentence myself." Peggy Carter fell silent, thinking about the words. After a long time, she smiled wryly and nodded, "You really make it difficult for me. Forget it, I've retired anyway. It's okay to be a gun for others, but it's a problem if you provoke me anyway." A group of soldiers locked Loki and walked towards the hall, while Thor was talking on the side. "It's also because this guy's own butt is not clean, otherwise it would be really hard to touch him." Loki couldn't help complaining, "As far as I know, even if there is no problem, you will find him a problem. Don't talk nonsense, I'm a good law-abiding citizen. You are definitely the one to do this kind of thing, for example, pretending to be him and running to the White House." Loki is a bit pained. "Why is there someone more brazen than me in the world?" Frigga walked over and looked at Lug with a worried face. "Mother!" Loki blurted out, then reacted, and changed his mind to an expression of indifference, "Are you proud of me?" Frigga's face became more worried. "Don't add fuel to the fire, your father is very angry now." Just as Loki was about to speak, Odin's voice came from the king's seat, "Okay, let me talk to him." "Why?" Turning to Loki, he said in a deep voice, "Don't you really know that you have sinned deeply? There is nothing to say. Wherever you are, there will be destruction and death. And I, as a benevolent god future to Midgard to rule the people of the earth. I can prove that I am truly born to be king. Odin sighed, all this stems from your desire for the throne. No, this is the power I deserve. Loki's voice suddenly became louder. Enough! Odin was furious, and he roared, the right you deserve is death. Died in infancy, abandoned on a cold rock. If Frigg hadn't pity you, you would have died long ago. Since this is the case, you will give me death now. No. You will never see Frigga again, I will let you stay in dungeon forever. And Thor, he shall be king. Odin waved his hand, and the guards took him down. On the balcony, Thor overlooked everything that was bustling below. When the disaster strikes a few years later, if you can't resist the past, all this will disappear. Can you tell me about her? Odin suddenly walked up to him. Yes. But which one are you talking about? Odin's mouth twitched. In fact, Thor's behavior is not a problem in the eyes of the Asgard people. Even Odin has had 3 wives, but only Frigga went to the end. 0. Ask for flowers. Mainly, Thor has been obsessed with hammers for 1,000 years, until he suddenly became enlightened in the last few years. And it may be because of the depression for too long that it got out of hand. Considering the lifespan and time concept of the Asgard people, it's like taking a nap, a lot of daughter-in-laws are already. If it wasn't for the fact that Frigga, who is a witch, didn't notice anything unusual, he even suspected that his son was being possessed other's body. The only consolation is that my favorite Sif has not waited in vain for so many years. That, the mortal who took Mjolnir. Of course he was talking about Jane Foster. As for Natalia, it was just that her character was recognized by Mjolnir, and she was allowed to use part of the power of thunder. Once the hammer leaves, it turns back into a mortal again. But Jane is different. Now she is the new Thor, a real god with a godhead. She and Mjolnir have a high degree of compatibility, even surpassing you. Odin said solemnly, the reason why she can lift Mjolnir is not because of my curse, but is truly recognized by Mjolnir. I even have a feeling that even if I can't lift a hammer one day, that girl can still do it. Thor nodded silently. He already knew that Jane had great potential, but he didn't expect to get such a high evaluation from Odin. He pondered for a while, and said, yes, a long time ago, I had a feeling that Mjolnir is not really my god-king weapon, it just helps me use my power better and makes me more focused. As an artifact of the same level as Kungunir should not be so ordinary. My gut told me Mjolnir's answer was in Midgard. So I left it on Earth until Jane held it up, and she didn't let me down. Odin nodded and patted him on the shoulder, although I don't want the future God King to fall in love with a human being, I have to say that you have a good eye. Chapter 100 No one needs to be responsible. Thor was a little surprised by Odin's attitude. You know, in the original history, Odin strongly opposed Thor and Jane Foster being together, and even tried to obstruct it in various ways. Odin saw his doubts, and said with a light smile, the lifespan of human beings cannot be compared with that of Asgardians. Even the most common Shinaitu people have a lifespan of more than 5,000 years, while mortals can live up to 100 years. Asgards have never lived an example of combining with mortals, but it has always been endless loneliness after decades of joy. So, I don't want this to happen to the future God King. And now, although I don't know why, you seem to have solved this problem, and the shackles of their lifespan have been untied. Thor nodded. Most importantly, Ragnarok is not far away. On that day, this country that countless September 10th people yearn for will face catastrophe. A new Thor will bring very huge amounts of help. Surprised, Thor immediately retorted, no, Ragnarok won't happen. Odin shook his head, the future is not static. I know that you rely on your own efforts to change many things. But Ragnarok was predicted thousands of years ago, do you know what that means? Thor murmured, meaning, it's harder to change it. Odin nodded, your mother has predicted many times. Although the endings are different, in every future, Suturt will be reborn in flames. Even if you don't do it, this moment will appear. Thor's face was a little dignified. Odin's meaning is obvious, he knows that he basically does not need to use Ragnarok against Hela but still may have God Yellow for other reasons. On Earth, in a major conference room, several military and political leaders are having heated discussions. This is provocation. This is an act of contempt for the law. I propose that everyone in the Trudheim Manor be arrested immediately. A white-bearded member of the council said sternly. Ahem. Nick Fury coughed beside him. As SHIELD director, he is also eligible to attend the conference. First of all, there is no evidence pointing to them. Everything at present is just our speculation. Moreover, you have to consider the consequences of doing so. There is more than one god in Trudheim Manor. Even if Thor is not on the earth now, according to our routine it is difficult for the army to pose a threat to them. Unless... Nick Fury glanced at everyone with a sneer on his face, drop another nuclear bomb at New York. The hall fell into silence. We have Captain America too. The comrades who were born and died decades ago, even if they help, it's not helping you. We have the Hulk. I'm looking forward to your friendly exchange with the Hulk. We still have Iron Man. Stark is lying in the hospital right now. Mr. Stark, how are you feeling now? Happy and Pepper asked Stark, who was lying on the hospital bed with concern. Very good. I feel lighter than ever. I can finally get a good night's sleep tonight. Did you have any regrets when you removed the reactor? Definitely not. Reactor or not, armor or not, I'm Iron Man. Excuse me, the doctor makes rounds. An emotionless voice thought, interrupting Stark's act. Stark snorted. Although this Doctor Strange is indeed highly skilled in medicine, he has a weird personality and is really as annoying as Thor said. On the outside, you are a billionaire, a philanthropist, a great inventor, an Iron Man, but in the hospital, you are just my patient, and you must listen to me in everything. Who is Stark? Even in the face of Thor, he has never been cowardly, and he will fight back when he is bullied. But the cold reactor in his chest told him that his life was still in other people's hands, and Stark had no choice but to be cowardly. I thought it would be enough after the operation was over, but the other party asked me to stay in the hospital for recuperation and observation for half a month. The key point is that Little Pepper is completely on the opponent's side. In fact, Strange was worried that this guy would disobey the doctor's orders and commit suicide, and if something happened, his reputation would be affected. By the way, what happened to the media fishing boat outside? What do the public think of us? Stark suddenly asked Happy. Happy is a big fat man with a happy face. He thought for a while and said, most of them expressed their gratitude. They think you are the heroes who saved the world. But some people think that the Avengers should be responsible for the loss of New York. At least partly responsible. Alas! Stark sighed, make up for the badly damaged citizens as much as possible, they are all innocent. Actually Xiao Jiao pondered for a while, and whispered, none of the parties has the obligation to compensate for the losses caused by the war. Even if it is compensation, the government will come forward to provide humanitarian subsidies. A talented student like Stark would definitely not understand this truth. He shook his head, I knew this at the time, so I thought it was charity. Anyway, Stark Industry is not short of money. 17. Since returning from Afghanistan, Stark has always had great empathy for the victims of those wars. After learning of Stark's actions, Thor, who had just returned to Earth, sighed. What's the matter? Peggy Carter beside her asked with some doubts, isn't it great that someone is willing to take responsibility? Thor shook his head, yes, he did a good job. Stark definitely knew that he was not obliged to pay compensation, but he still tried his best. However, Many people would not think so. Even if he did a good job, people will only think that this is what he should do. Although Stark Industry is rich, it has not yet reached the point where it can settle the losses of the entire New York. And the Great War in New York won't be the last Star Wars. Personally, he did a good thing and took responsibility that he didn't need to bear. It seemed to save the reputation of the Avengers. But in the big picture, this behavior created an illusion that the Avengers should fight for the confrontation. The damage caused by evil will pay the bill. In fact, he only needs to provide basic living allowances to those at the bottom who have nowhere to go and can't even get relief money. And this is the job of Washington. To my raises kindness, raises rice to raise hatred, never underestimate the greed of human nature. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.